Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wealth Edit Wednesday. We are so excited about our guests this week. We have Katrina and Lexie Von Hahn, who have a new brand that they're launching this summer called Gallola. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Gallola. It's a tough one.
Gallola?
Gallola.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to practice that.
That works.
I do love, if y'all go find them on Instagram, which y'all need to follow them right away. You're really great in your stories and everything to like really work on how we can pronounce it correctly, which is much appreciated. But what I had the chance to meet them yesterday and talk, and I'm so excited for y'all to hear the story behind the brand and what they're working on. So why don't we just start, and I'll just let y'all introduce yourself and kind of give us a little background on Gallola. I can't say it correctly, but give us a little background and we'll get started.
Perfect. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for this opportunity. We are just thrilled to be chatting with you and also to be connecting with the Wealth Edit community. So thank you so much. But for a little bit about us, we are sisters, and I'm Katrina, and Lexie's my older sister. And we were born and raised in Latin America. So Lexie was born in Santiago de Chile. I was born in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And then we lived for many years in Mexico City. And our time living in Latin America really left a lasting imprint on us and who we are and the way we see the world and our sense of style and our love of design. It really left a huge imprint. And while we each then moved on to a number of different countries, we feel really fortunate that our roots back in Latin America were really strong, and we've been able to go back a lot and spend a lot of time there. And so we are just the ultimate collectors. Whenever we lived in Latin America or traveled there, we would love to pick up little trinkets and little items that were really distinctive and special. And we would always get compliments on them. You know, people would stop us and say, "Where did you get that?" And then they would be surprised when we said, you know, wherever it was in Latin America. I think a lot of people weren't expecting that from Latin America or hadn't seen something like that before. So for many years, Lexie and I have kind of developed a lot of ideas for different products that we wanted to create that were evocative of the feelings that we get when we're in Latin America and that are inspired by our Latin American roots. And that is what has ultimately become Gallola. I know it's a bit of a tougher name. And we're happy to share a little bit more about what Gallola is and what we're doing. But just to give a little bit of context as to how we got here, Lexie and I each had a bit of a different academic and professional path to get to this point. So for me, I went to college in the States. I went to a small liberal arts college called Colby in Maine. And I studied Latin American studies and sociology there. So for me, it was super important to be studying something that applied my love of Latin America, and I got to keep learning. And then I worked for a little bit. I ultimately went back to graduate school for qualitative research. And then that led me to a research consultancy where we were essentially uncovering customer insights for different brands. And then we would use those insights and those learnings to create marketing and branding strategies for those clients. And as I was helping other people build their businesses or grow them, I just kept thinking, you know, we have our own business that we want to be starting. So that's really what led us to today. But I'll let Lexie share a little bit about her path to get here.
Yes. So I went to university in the UK. So I went to St. Andrews in Scotland, where I studied business and history of art before studying law in London. And then was actually working at a tech startup before transitioning into the venture capital world. So I moved to a small tech-based startup where I get to speak and interact with entrepreneurs on a daily basis. So kind of seeing that motivation and inspiration behind each and every company that I meet with was a little bit of that kick that we needed to join all the entrepreneurs and start our business ourselves. And so while we dreamt about Gallola for many years, it wasn't until the pandemic that we had a little bit of extra time on our hands to really think through where it is we wanted to be focusing our time, what it is we wanted to be doing, and ultimately decided that the two of us were uniquely positioned to really bring this brand to life and bring these ideas we've had brewing for so long and actually make it a reality. So while we have a lot of ideas for what we want to bring for Gallola, our first item that we'll be launching with later this summer is a loafer. So
We have it here.
Here.
Show a little bit.
Yay. I love it.
And so it's made in León, Guanajuato in Mexico, but is inspired by a traditional Argentine style named carpincho that's very prevalent in Argentina, but not necessarily in other places. So we wanted to kind of merge two parts of our upbringing with the Argentine heritage and the Mexican, I guess, craftsmanship, and bring this loafer to the world.
Oh, there's so many things I want to say. I mean, one thing I will say just off the bat is over and over again, over really probably the last 2 months, as we've heard women's stories about their brands and their businesses and what they're working on, I'm always struck by how interesting it is how we all have our own unique paths of how we get to like where we are. So both of y'all having different educational backgrounds, but Katrina, I mean, your background of like studying the culture and learning about communities and then taking that into the marketing world and the background that you've gotten there and now what you're bringing to the table. And Lexie saying, the very similar path that I had was, definitely going through the law. And oddly enough, I really wanted to major in art history. I still
I didn't know
go back and do that. I know it's kind of strange, but and then having the step with the entrepreneurs, exposure to that, and then taking something you love and putting it all together to create it. Because I think sometimes as women, we feel like we are supposed to, or like maybe it's not correct to not like take this very like linear path to where we're going, and to just really like embrace that and see like, I was talking to some younger women the other day and I said, like, don't ever think that just because you start here, even if you don't want to stay there forever, every step of the way you're learning something that then will translate into a skill that you're using. And so thank y'all for sharing that part of your story, because I just think that's so important for women to hear over and over again. Like, even if you're in a job right now that you're like, I am not going to do this forever, that's fine, because each one is a season.
I'm surprised at how many times we will do something and be like, oh my goodness, this is very kind of it led us very well from something we did in the past that potentially at the time we didn't think was necessarily relevant to us. And now all of a sudden we are very grateful to have had those previous steps that led us here. I think things happen for a reason. And so I am grateful that we took a little bit of a roundabout route to get us here, because I think it makes us stronger as a team and as founders to be able to pull from all those different areas to bring it into Gallola.
So as we're thinking about this in both of your roles, so I know Lexie, you're still working full time, and y'all cannot tell this, but she is pregnant with twin boys, which is so exciting, due later this summer. So y'all both have a lot going on. But so Lexie, you're still working full time. Katrina, you're handling a lot of the day-to-day business. How did y'all make those decisions on who was going to do what?
Exactly.
So we started out, when we started Gallola, we were both working full time. I think it was important to us to kind of get the ball rolling, get things started before kind of jumping in full force. So at the beginning, it was a lot of very late nights when we could squeeze in Gallola meetings. And then ultimately we decided that we needed someone who had more time throughout the day to be focusing on this. And so working at the VC firm, I find is incredibly beneficial and gives a lot of the skills I'm doing there on a day-to-day basis is very applicable to Gallola. And a lot of what Katrina was doing at her job, I'll let her chat about it a bit more, but those skills, we needed those skills on a day-to-day basis at Gallola. So she is still freelancing in order to kind of make this all work. But we ultimately decided that based on our strengths, I was doing a lot more on the creative side of designing the products. And those were things I didn't have to be doing 9 to 5. I could do those on weekends, in the evenings, and connect with Katrina about that after. Whereas what she was doing, we couldn't be calling our manufacturers at 10 p.m. at night and asking them things.
Exactly. So I think it really just happened naturally. As Lexie said, we really tried to tap into our areas of expertise and our experiences already. So for me, that meant I do all the big research, I do all the day-to-day. And I would actually say to anyone who wonders what is being an entrepreneur, I actually think it's very similar to being a researcher. You have to learn about new things you've never done before. You have to absorb the information, interpret it, and then make business decisions from it. So I actually think my research background lends itself really well to being an entrepreneur. And then, as Lexie said, she does all the creative side of Gallola, but also too, as she said, she studied business, she works at a VC fund. So she also kind of oversees the business trajectory of Gallola. And it just happened naturally with our strengths and our experiences.
Yeah, we didn't go in with a plan of how it would all unfold. We kind of let it happen naturally, which I'm thankful we did, because I don't think we could have necessarily planned all the steps.
Yeah. And I love that. And I do think we have to be open to just sort of the organic development of our roles. When Lauren and I started the Wealth Edit, it was, we really had a vision of going and doing in-person little pop-up events, weekend retreats, things like that. And as I mentioned yesterday, we went into quarantine like 5 days after we launched. But to your point, it gave us a lot of extra time to really think through, okay, well, what do we want this to look like? And that one of the first things we did was Wealth Edit Wednesday, but we probably would have been much slower to come to a podcast had it not been for that. But over time, we realized, okay, my strengths are here and Lauren's are there. Like, I am just hopeless with social media, but she has a real, gift with that. And so, we kind of watched as that did and sort of adjusted accordingly. And so I love that. Another thing that Lauren and I did, and it's something that y'all are doing really well from the beginning, is so when you're launching, it's just educating people on who you are and what you're doing. And if y'all check them out on Instagram, I mean, you can see, like, you feel like you're getting to know both of y'all, and y'all have done a great job of that. So tell me a little bit about where the name of Gallola came from and why you chose to name your company that.
I love that question because we love any opportunity to talk a little bit about the name. So as Lexie mentioned, I think we really feel that Gallola is kind of a product of the two of us and the experiences we've had and our heritage and our roots. And so we knew we wanted a personal connection in the name without it being, an eponymous label like Lexie and Katrina or LNC, but we still wanted it to have a nod to us.
LNK.
LNK, yeah, whoops, LNC. I'm looking at Lexie's coasters for her and her husband. Whoops. But we knew it wanted to reference us. And so our last name is means of the rooster, and rooster in Spanish is gallo. So we knew we wanted there to be some sort of reference to gallo in the name. And we thought maybe if we added the la at the end, the LA, it would add a really nice kind of Spanish flair. It rolls off the tongue. And then it also stands for Latin America. So it's really symbolic of who we are. And then also, what this brand is all about, which is all about kind of our love for the region of Latin America.
I do think it's much harder than people realize to come up with a name. And that's a beautiful story behind your name. And I love knowing that. And, we always say when you know the story behind something, I know I am, and Katrina, I'm sure just from some market research, that like when you know the story behind the brand or like why it's named what it is, I am so much more likely to buy from them or like really do my best to support them, even like with shops just in town. You talk to somebody and you hear it, and they're just like that instant personal connection. So another
feel more personal, and I think that's, as you mentioned, we're trying to share a lot about us and what brought us here and why this brand is so important to us. So we're hopeful that by kind of intrinsically weaving that into not only our name, our social media, our website when it goes live, kind of having everything tied together, we hope people realize we're real people behind the brand, and we have so much we want to share. And so we hope it sticks with everyone.
No, I think that's awesome. And I know that even with the Wealth Edit, we have done that. I mean, because you want there to be that personal connection, but you also want to be in front of, you want it to be word of mouth, because you think about women and how we operate. Even we say when you're discussing money, I mean, it's hey, did you hear about, like, where'd you get that shirt? Or, oh, I found it, but let me tell you, you can find it over here. It's on sale. I mean, like there's always these conversations, but even when we're talking about brands, like I was telling our interns this morning all about y'all and like what you were doing, and you're just so much more likely to share. And so it's a wonderful way to just get the word out. And so I know one thing about your, kind of like what your vision is for Guyana for the rest, long term, is not only is it the Loafer, which I think is great. And I want to talk more about that because like, how do you even start if you want to make a shoe? But then also just the vision of being able to educate and to share different recommendations if we're traveling to Argentina, like where should we stay and all that. I mean, I personally asked for our listeners if they were planning on hosting trips to Latin America, which I hope that will come. And I want to be on the inaugural trip because I've never been to Latin America. I've been to Mexico one time, and I'm not even going to count it because I don't feel like it was an accurate representation of that one resort that I never left the property when I was young. But anyway, so how do y'all envision that going? I mean, is it through a blog? Is it through articles? What's that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's been something that Lexie and I have spent a lot of time thinking about. What is the best way to bring this to our community? So for us, it's really important that Gallola is not only bringing really special kind of showstoppers for your home and wardrobe and special products, but that it's so much more than that. And as you said, we really want to provide resources and materials for our community so that they feel like they're learning more about Latin America. Maybe it inspires them in some way. Maybe it's something they can use on a trip, or, if they know a friend's going somewhere, they can provide that. So for us, we love blogs. We love reading things online. So that's going to be kind of our primary way to do it. And our blog is called Con Amor, which means with love, because this really is kind of a tribute to our love of Latin America. And we're going to have recipe recaps. We have interviews with really interesting people who have connections to Latin America, city guides. My personal favorite that I've been working a lot on is interviews with really cool boutique hotels across Latin America. So we hope that people, get a little taste and hopefully come back for more. And then that's going to be woven into our email newsletter, our social media. So there's going to be a couple different avenues, but primarily coming through the blog Con Amor, which will go live once we launch later this summer.
Thank you for that explanation, because I think when I heard that yesterday and even hearing it again, it's so much more than just a site where you can buy things from Latin America. It's so much more. So I can't wait.
We want it to not just be about purchasing something, but a full experience. So whether that's a trip someone's planning, or if they're having friends over, if we can inspire you to have a pisco sour as your cocktail of choice that weekend, as opposed to a Cosmo, then we will consider that a win, because we would love to help people infuse these little touches of Latin America to their everyday life.
I love that. Okay, so let's turn and look. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the shoe and the process that it was to go from an idea all the way to the actual product that you have in front of you.
Boy, has it been a process, let me tell you. So I think we knew we wanted a shoe. We wanted a loafer. We had this picture in our head of what we wanted, but neither of us have necessarily worked in fashion before or have a background in design. So it's been a lot of figuring things out as we go. So thankfully we have our in-house researcher over here. I'll let her kick it off.
Yeah. So Lexie, as she said, we had a clear idea, but we didn't necessarily know how to execute it. So what I would say to anyone else in that position is to try and learn as much as you can. There is so much information out there. You can really take it upon yourself. And then alongside that, also to partner with the right people. So for us, that meant we had to do a lot of research on who would be the right partners to produce and to manufacture our loafer. So for us, we knew we wanted all our products made in Latin America. And naturally, that kind of meant that we went to León, Guanajuato in Mexico, which is a city that is actually considered the shoe capital of the world. A lot of people don't know, but they have more shoe manufacturers and tanneries in this city in Mexico than they do in Spain, in Italy and China. So it's a great place to go. They have over 3,400 shoe manufacturers. So we had a lot of people to talk to. So from there, we really tried to find people that we connected with. So we found a manufacturer. It's a family-owned business, third generation, where we really feel comfortable. You know, as Lexie said, we don't have experience in the footwear industry. And with this manufacturer that we've partnered with, we never feel embarrassed to ask questions or to propose something. And so again, I'd encourage anyone who's trying to find the right partner is to find someone that you feel confident in, but also comfortable with. And, you know, with this partnership with our manufacturer, they really brought our idea to life and really enhanced it and made it this timeless shoe with, you know, premium quality. And it's really because of, I think, our idea and their execution of it that it's become what it is.
And we recently actually got to go down and meet them because this all started throughout the pandemic. So it was a lot of calls and video chats with them. But earlier this year, we finally got to go down and meet them in person and actually see the machines being used and watch them kind of go through the whole process, which I think made it feel a lot more real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I do think, I mean, even with the vision of educating others on, you know, on Latin America and what the culture is like, I mean, to get in there and engage in business, that is a side of culture and learning that is really, I mean, even in America, I mean, like, as we have dug into doing our book, I mean, you know, you learn so much through that, but not only do you learn about the process of like doing the book or the shoe, you're learning about the culture and what it looks like to transact business there.
Exactly. It's entirely different. I mean, one, it's a different industry than we have experience in.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a different country. There are different cultural norms, different customs, different timelines, different language. Yeah, Lexie and I, fortunately, we're both fully bilingual. So, you know, this wouldn't necessarily be possible the way that we're doing it now if we didn't speak Spanish. And so it's been very different, but I think what's great is that we're trying to absorb and to learn as much as possible so that we can really be as acclimated as we need to be to get this done in a way that's successful and productive, not just for now, but for the long term too.
Okay, so as we're thinking about transacting business and we are the wealth edit, so as we talk about money, what did it look like to fund this from the beginning? So I know y'all both thankfully are able to kind of continue to work, Katrina, with you having a little bit more flexible schedule. You know, how did y'all think through that and where to start? Because I know Lexie's in the middle of some outside funding, but
yes, so we thought about that a lot at the beginning. So from the very get-go, we kind of sat down, and once we knew what it was we wanted to build, we had to figure out how it was we were going to build it. So because I work in venture capital, I think it was a natural discussion for us to have fairly early on, whether outside capital is something we wanted to raise. I think there's a lot of really successful businesses who have started with capital very early on, and it's given them the opportunity to grow really quickly and build a really strong brand. But ultimately, we decided that that wasn't the route we wanted to take. So we knew we wanted to grow Gallola very organically. We knew we wanted it to be very representative of us and to follow a pace that we felt comfortable with. So ultimately, we decided we were going to bootstrap this company. It meant that it maybe took a little bit longer to get everything up and running, but it feels very unique to us, and every decision has been entirely Katrina and I making it. So we don't have a board that we're looking to at this point, or investors that we're relying on. So it has forced us to be pretty scrappy in a lot of ways, but I actually think it's a benefit to us. It has forced us to look outside of the box and think of things a little bit differently. Katrina has found some very unique sources for us to make things work this way. So I'll let her kind of chat about some of the things, because I do think at the beginning, it can feel overwhelming to feel like you have to bring in all outside resources to be the best of the best. And we are determined to find ways to do things differently so that we can continue to grow this the way we want to.
Exactly. I think sometimes it's overwhelming and daunting, and you can think that, okay, the only way for us to be a successful brand is if we follow this formula that others have done, and if they've raised all this capital, you can feel like, how are we going to do it? And you can question yourselves. And I think Lexie and I have been very strategic about finding other ways to do things, but without sacrificing, the integrity of what we're trying to do. So a couple things maybe that give other people some inspiration that we've done have been, for our footage, we're trying to get a lot of video footage. We film it ourselves, but then we have it professionally edited by a videographer afterwards. We knew we wanted to work with a graphic designer for all our branding. That's super important to us. That's kind of the core of the brand. So we actually found a young graphic designer. She's actually in Venezuela. We love that she has that Latin American connection. And she's very young. She's recently out of school, but we loved everything she had produced, and we felt like we could really be aligned and could help each other. So
and grow with her.
Yes.
As we're growing and figuring things out, she's doing the exact same thing. So it's kind of unique to be able to give someone the opportunity while they're also helping us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love, with the guidebook, we, when we first decided, okay, we do need a physical manifestation of like what the wealth that it is, so that if we're meeting with people or if we want to send somebody something, then we have this resource. And when we first started talking to some people who were in that industry, they were like, oh, it's about a $60,000 project. And we thought, well, we do not have $60,000 to spend on this guidebook. Like, what else can we do? And one of the things I love the most about Lauren, and because I don't know, for me, like having this legal background, everything is, step by step. And so being in the entrepreneurial world, like my mind has been a little bit blown, because one, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just doesn't. It's better to be present over perfect. And that's not necessarily, that definitely is not the case in the legal world. But then also it's just like saying, well, we can do that. I mean, I'm sure we can figure out something at least. And so we just decided we're just going to start kind of going through the motions that make sense to us about how to create this product. But one of the things was we had an intern who has now graduated, but we said, she was in graphic design. She was very gifted. She had worked with us through Canva and some of our social media, and we could tell like she was really gifted. And we approached her and said, we would love to pay you to do this. And she was in her, senior year of college, had a little bit of extra time. But not only that, she looked at it and said, I'm so excited for this opportunity, because as I'm trying to get out there and get a job, now I'm going to have a physical manifestation of like what I am capable of. Mm-hmm. And definitely we all learned a million things along the way. But I love hearing y'all say that too. It's like, don't be afraid to give somebody that's just starting a chance. Mm-hmm. Not only does it help you from like a budgetary standpoint, but it also gives them an opportunity to show their talent and then have product to show, but then also to be able to grow together and be
like, and we're asking our manufacturers to take a chance on us. We're a small business. Right. We're not huge, and we have gone out to manufacturers and convinced them that they should take that chance on us and that we will make it worth their while. And so I think we kind of owe it to the community as well, when there are people who are asking us to take a chance on them, and if we trust them, then why not? And I truly think it's forced us to be more unique and to think out of the box and to come up with ideas that we probably wouldn't have done it if we didn't have to. Mm-hmm. So it's working out hopefully for a reason, and helping Gallola stand out amongst the crowd.
Okay, well, I cannot wait to follow along with y'all on your journey and to be a part of your new community. So for our listeners, how can they find you, and what is the best way to know about Gallola? Gallola? Finally, I got the L. Now it makes sense. Latin American. I remember that. Okay, so how can we find you and follow along?
Well, we are so excited. We hope that members of the Wealth Edit community come and join our community. Best place to find us would be, we love Instagram. So our handle is Gallola, Gallola, or our website. We currently have a landing page up where you can subscribe to our newsletter. We promise we won't spam you. You'll just get some exciting emails, some promo codes, some more about us. It's a great place to start. And our website will then be going live later this summer. And you can find all of that at our website, which is gallola.com. So GALLOLA.com. And if anyone has any questions or wants to chat about anything, we encourage them to reach out to us. We'd love to get to meet more people and connect with more members of the community.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that we've reached out to many, many female entrepreneurs, often not in a related area, but just if we're inspired by their story, we've kind of gone out on a limb and reached out, and people have been so accepting and welcoming and kind. And so we would love to help other people out if we can, or just kind of talk through things. So if we can help anybody out, we encourage them to reach out to us.
That's a great point, Lexie. I would say I have been blown away by how kind other women have been to us. And almost every single female that we've ever reached out to and said, can you just help us think through this? Or we want to know more. Even just people saying yes to the wealth that it is like so humbling to me that all these women, y'all two included, that are just doing amazing things, have said yes to spending time with us. So as we end our call, I'd like to ask y'all the question that we always end with. Why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit?
I think we each have a reason. I think for me, it was an easy yes. We were thrilled to say yes. It's such an honor. But I think because today you do see more resources for female entrepreneurs and female professionals, whether that be a forum or a mentorship program. But I still think it's very rare today to find a business that is solely devoted to talking about finances and helping women kind of in that space. And so I think Lexie and I'm sure I can speak for Lexie too, when I say that we think what the Wealth Edit is doing is not only really refreshing and rare, but it's needed. It's a must, and we're really inspired by it, and think it plays a critical role.
And I think I agree with that, but also we have been very reliant on podcasts these last couple of years. So especially throughout the pandemic, where going to a lot of these in-person events weren't an option, we have listened to countless podcasts, just kind of figuring things out. And Wealth Edit Wednesday has been one of those for, I guess, nearly 2 years now that we've been listening. So to think that we get to be one of these, I guess, episodes that people get to listen to was kind of a pinch me moment.
Oh, thank y'all for saying that. It is so true. I look back over like all the people that we've interviewed, and I was like, this is such an awesome list of just women that are all throughout the United States, now Canada. I know that are just doing cool things, and just to like be able to be inspired by what everyone's doing.
That we would never get to hear from these women if we didn't have these opportunities to put our AirPods on in a walk and listen to them. So we feel fortunate to be able to take advantage of these resources, and would love to be a source of that help for somebody else.
Well, thank y'all
so much.
Thank y'all, and I appreciate it, and we look forward to following along on your journey. And I'm going to go sign up for the newsletter right now. So y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.